Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Minx and welcome to Who Does It Best, where we talk about primers, why they're important, which ones are best, and how they worked for me. A little bit of backstory on my skin. I'm very oily to the point where I'm almost having to brush on that translucent powder probably once every 2 to 3 hours. Um, some of these primers work better than others, and I'll explain in my opinion why. So the first one that we are going to be going over is the First Aid Beauty Oil-Free Mattifying Gel Skin Rescue line. This is a clear, I wouldn't really say it's a primer, but it does kind of work like one. This one is clear, kind of translucent-y. And it has almost like a moisturizer feel to it whenever you're starting to put it on initially. It says that it mattifies and reduces the appearance of pores and that it smooths the complexion. In my opinion, it's a little tacky just whenever it dries, because whenever I put on my primer, I do my moisturizer first. I let that dry and soak into my skin, and then I put on my primer, and when my primer sits on my skin, I do my eye makeup. That way it has time to kind of work into the skin, and that way it's nice and dry and ready for my makeup whenever I'm ready to put on my foundation. So the issue that I ran into this one was that it was tacky whenever it dried. So whenever I was going to put on my foundation, now the way that I do my foundation is I put on just a little bit, and then I go over with my Anastasia cream contour kit, and that's a little bit on the thicker side. Now I do add 1 drop of a beauty oil to each of the shades in the Anastasia cream contour kit. That way they're nice and workable, because I feel without that they kind of stick and they don't really like to blend out that much. So that was a huge help, and shout out to Manny MUA for bringing that to my attention, because that's been a huge lifesaver. But this one, it's not really my favorite. So this one only controls my oil for up to 4 hours before I have to seriously remattify with either my Boscia charcoal mattifying spray or with just my translucent powder from Makeup Forever. In my opinion, that's a fail. The next one that we're going to go over is the Smashbox Pore Minimizing. This is a little bit thicker than the one that's kind of the only way I can really describe this is that it kind of acts just like the Benefit Professional, but it's thicker. And I like that because, in my opinion, the Professional didn't really do anything for my oil. All it did was for the pores, and I really needed something that worked well with the oil. Now this one blurs imperfections and fills pores for a smooth canvas. I believe it. I actually really like this one. This is in my top favorites. It is kind of thick. You can see there. And it's kind of dry in the sense that this would work really well for thinner foundations or powder foundations, just because it gives a good canvas without being too sticky. So if you like to wear powder foundations because you're oily, this is the best one for you, because it's going to be dry. Your powders won't stick to it. They won't change color. Like the Kat Von D changes color on me if I have a wetter primer underneath it. This one works best for that. Also, it works really well under the Lock-It foundation, the liquid, because the Kat Von D liquid, it really accentuates my pores unless I have a good pore filling primer underneath it. So that's why I like the Smashbox Pore Minimizing with the Kat Von D Lock-It. They seem to go hand in hand together, and it kind of makes for a really smooth canvas, which is amazing. It also goes well underneath my Anastasia Cream Contour Kit. This is actually the primer that I'm using today, because I put on my cream contour with my Lancome foundation. And it doesn't make my cream feel heavy, which it sometimes does because, like I said earlier, I do add a beauty oil drop to each color before I use it. which can sometimes like counteract the whole trying to mattify my face, but I'm adding oil on top of it. So the Smashbox really helps create that barrier so that my oil is not mixing with the beauty oil and making things just a mess. This also controls my oil for up to 6 hours, which is really nice. The next one on the list is the Cover FX Mattifying Primer. Now this mattifying primer is clear. In my opinion, it does feel kind of like the original Smashbox, just because it has more of a silicone type feel to it. And some oily people probably may not like it because it does feel a little bit thicker. It does have an acne fighting medication in it. It's 1% salicylic acid. Now this is also a water resistant gel primer, so it wouldn't really be great for those water-based foundations like the BB water from Smashbox or any of the cushion foundations. This controls my oil for up to 5 hours. It is a little bit thicker, so I can only wear certain foundations with it. I can't wear my thinner foundations like my Lancome or my BB cream with it. This one is only really good for me underneath my Tarte Amazonian Clay Liquid. Our fourth one is the Dr. Brandt Pores No More Pore Refining Primer. This stuff is the thinner equivalent to the Smashbox. One downfall that I kind of had with it is that it has a very medicated, I don't know how to explain it. It's got a weird smell to it. And if you put it directly on your pores, it almost feels like, on me at least, it kind of stung. Kind of stung deep in my pores. That's probably a good thing, but kind of drove me a little bit nuts because I hate it when my skin is itchy. It drives me nuts because I don't like to touch my face when I have makeup on because I don't want to mess it up. And that kind of drove me a little bit bonkers. But it is the best primer that I have ever used underneath my Kat Von D powder because it's not a wet feeling. It dries kind of just like the Smashbox. And it makes a really good smooth base for that powder to go onto because the Kat Von D powder, in my opinion, is kind of notorious for darkening whenever it goes onto something that is a wet base. So having something that is drier is not going to make your foundation change colors. This one also is not much for controlling my oil. Then again, I am super oily. I'm not just combo. My whole face is oily, especially in my T-zone, right here in my cheeks and on my chin. It's more for smoothing skin. In my opinion, it only controlled my oil for about 2 hours. Our fifth primer is the Peter Thomas Roth Pore Putty. This is a pore and wrinkle reducer. It kind of feels like a thinner version of the Smashbox original primer. So if you're oily and you like the feeling of that one, this one's a good one. This one is also tinted. And it almost has a silicone-based feel to it. The tinted in it doesn't do a whole lot. It's a treatment basically that fills and blurs lines and pores. It also works over time to visibly reduce the appearance of pores and fine lines. In fact, there's a bunch of science behind it and clinical studies, and it's on the box and I don't have the box. This, in my opinion, is the best underneath my Tarte Amazonian Clay Liquid Foundation. It really makes a really smooth canvas that's awesome for that foundation to stick to. Even though they're both on the thick side, they don't make each other feel heavy, if you understand what I'm saying. They really complement each other very, very well. It controls my oil for up to 6 to 7 hours, which makes me very happy. The last one on our list today is the Hourglass. And this is the Veil Mineral Primer. This one is a mineral-based, water-resistant primer that minimizes shine and makes skin feel ultra smooth. I don't know if you are going to be able to see this on camera, but it does, it comes out white, but it does almost have a colored undertone in it that helps to neutralize dullness. in my opinion, whenever I put it on, it's almost got this lavenderish, bluish, kind of iridescent tint to it, which I really like because, you know, I'm a mermaid and we're attracted to shiny, iridescent, glittery stuff. So, I mean, obviously. Now this is very thin. It's really easy to work with. Works with any liquid foundations. It doesn't really have an effect on those water-based foundations like the Smashbox BB water. Works fine with it, even though it says it's water resistant. In my opinion, it doesn't really repel those water-based foundations as much as I expected it to. This controls my oil the longest out of all of them. It controls it for about 7 to 8 hours. I do only have to mildly touch up in my nose just because that's the oiliest part of me, but everything else is amazing. This is my favorite underneath my Dr. Jart Detox BB cream because it's thinner, and I feel like the BB cream's a little bit on the thicker side, so I really do have to, you know, throw on that translucent powder to make it matte. But this really makes sure that my makeup does stay all day, and that's why it's my favorite. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button right up there. I'll be doing more of these where I take things that I've used in the past and kind of divide them up into each of their little categories like skincare, foundations, other color items, and primers, and we'll do a little review for you. I'm also going to be doing one today about my favorite cleansers. My store just got Origins, which I'm super excited about because I love Origins. Everything from that line is incredible. I've used everything from that line and I've never had a bad experience with any of it, and it's really affordable, which is awesome in this age where skincare costs you about $300 to, you know, replace everything. So thank you all for watching and have an awesome day. Bye! Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. This is stuck. Oh, God. I can't talk.